My name is Elowen, 35 years old. The gravy spoon slipped from my hand and clattered against the ceramic floor of my parents' beach house kitchen. Brown liquid splattered across my apron, blooming like an ink blot test of everything I'd been bottling up. In the dining room, just 15 feet and a lifetime away, laughter rose above the clinking of glasses. They had started dinner without me. I stood there, frozen, listening to the cheerful noise washing over polished marble countertops, the sound of belonging that didn't include me. Mom had promised we'd all sit down together once everything was ready. But that was before Adrian's Tesla pulled into the driveway 2 hours ago, his designer luggage and practiced smile instantly eclipsing all my work. To Adrian, my father's voice boomed, for bringing this family together on Thanksgiving. The words sliced through me like a knife. I'd been here since Tuesday, chopping, seasoning, basting. Adrian had rolled in just before dinner, empty-handed except for a bottle of wine I suspected someone else had given him. I bent to clean the spilled gravy, my knees cracking against the hard tile. From that angle, I could see through the doorway. Mom fussing with Adrian's collar, Dad topping up his glass, Aunt Sarah leaning in to catch his latest story. Not one of them noticed my absence. 3 weeks earlier, Mom had started the family group text with her usual holiday fervor. Thanksgiving planning. We'll cook whatever Adrian likes this year. He's been so busy with his new position. I had suggested trying a restaurant on the bay, giving everyone a break. Her reply was immediate. Traditions matter, dear. Besides, you're so good in the kitchen. Translation, you're useful in the kitchen. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, fingers trembling. Something shifted inside me, like tectonic plates grinding before an earthquake. I picked up the silver gravy boat, filled to the brim with the sauce I had spent hours perfecting. The serving piece had belonged to Grandma. She had probably stood in kitchens like this one, serving men who never wondered if their work would be noticed. When I carried the gravy boat into the dining room, I set it down firmly. The heavy silver base hit the table with a satisfying thunk. 5 pairs of eyes flicked toward me before swiveling back to Adrian, who was mid-sentence about his golf game with a client. "Honey," Mom said, not looking at me, "could you get some more ice for Adrian's drink?" The words hovered between us. I had cooked for 2 days, while Adrian had lifted not a finger. "No." The single syllable landed like a stone through glass. Conversation died. Adrian's mouth hung open. Mom blinked rapidly, her social smile faltering. "I'm sorry?" I said no. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Dad's face darkened. "Your brother drove all the way from Tampa." 2 hours, I shot back. "I've been cooking for 2 days." The silence thickened, filled with unspoken rules I had just broken. My chest hammered. This tiny rebellion could cost me the conditional love I'd spent my life earning. Mom laughed nervously. "Elowen's just tired from cooking all day." She turned back to Adrian. "The turkey is exceptional this year, don't you think?" And just like that, they pretended the moment hadn't happened. Conversation flowed again, wrapping around me like a stream around a rock. I took my seat without fetching ice, without vanishing into the background. I poured myself a full glass of wine. Across the table, Aunt Rachel caught my eye and gave me the slightest nod. It was nothing. And yet, it was everything. I excused myself soon after, legs carrying me back to the kitchen. My pulse still buzzed with that small word, no, echoing in my veins. On the counter, Mom's iPad sat open, notifications glowing. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Her most recent post made my stomach twist. Excited for Adrian's special Thanksgiving menu, can't wait to taste what my talented son suggested for our family gathering. Her talented son. Not a word about who had shopped for ingredients. Prepped for 2 days, risen at dawn to roast the turkey. I scrolled further. Photo after photo. Birthdays, Easters, Christmases. Adrian, always at the center, with Mom and Dad beaming beside him. Sometimes my elbow or the back of my head appeared in the background, carrying trays or cleaning. Never once front and center. The kitchen felt too small, walls pressing in as 35 years of being overlooked condensed into undeniable evidence. "Elowen, where's the pumpkin pie?" Mom's voice floated in. I grabbed the pies, hands trembling, and slid them onto plates. Returning to the dining room, I placed them on the sideboard. "Just serve from there, honey," Mom said, without glancing up. I stood awkwardly, knife poised. "Adrian, tell them about your new place," Mom prompted, touching his arm. He stretched, shirt pulling across broad shoulders. Closed last week. Perfect beach house in Siesta Key. We should all visit, Dad said warmly, like our Key West trip last spring. My grip on the knife slipped. What Key West trip? A silence flickered. Then Mom laughed lightly. Oh, just a quick weekend getaway. You were so busy with work. I was never invited. Adrian shifted. Aunt Sarah jumped in. Speaking of family gatherings, Adrian, I've decided you should have Grandma's china cabinet. It'll look perfect in your dining room. The cabinet I had admired since childhood. Thanks, Aunt Sarah, Adrian said quickly, eyes avoiding mine. We want to keep things in the family, she replied. As if I'm not family, I muttered. Adrian needs it more than you, Dad added, especially with how stretched he is on the new house. Your mother and I helped with the down payment, but rates are brutal these days. The pieces clicked together, sickening. The same parents who had called me irresponsible for buying my modest condo, without their help, had handed Adrian a down payment for a beach house. I sliced the pie mechanically. More pie, anyone? My voice felt hollow. They ate, they laughed, they praised Adrian's promotion, his new boat. With each passing minute, the truth sank deeper. My only value to this family was service. Cooking, cleaning, organizing. If I stopped serving, would I cease to exist in their eyes? Would anyone like coffee? I asked. That would be lovely, dear, Mom said, finally glancing at me. And bring more napkins. Adrian spilled gravy. I turned before they saw my eyes burn. Passing Aunt Rachel, I felt her hand squeeze mine under the table. She whispered low, I see you. That nearly broke me. In the kitchen, I watched the family through the doorway, their laughter rising, my labor invisible. A question swelled. Should I keep peace by serving, or risk everything by demanding respect? As I moved the coffee pot, something caught my eye. Under the gravy boat, a grease-stained index card poked out. Grandma's handwriting looped across the top. Cranberry relish recipe. Dated 5 years earlier than the story Mom always told about its origin. I frowned, sliding it back without thinking. At the time, it seemed meaningless. But later, I'd wonder if Grandma had left more behind than just recipes. For now, the coffee hissed, the family called, and I, still trembling, straightened my shoulders to serve. Sleep became a stranger after that Thanksgiving. At 3:17 a.m., I sat upright in bed, stomach burning with acid that clawed its way up my throat. I padded into the bathroom, chewing antacids like candy, and stared at my reflection under the harsh light. My eyes looked haunted, hollow. That tiny word, no, still echoed inside me, but instead of relief, I felt a gnawing dread. Monday morning didn't go better. Elowen, my boss said, standing at my cubicle, arms crossed. Where's the Henderson pitch? It was due Friday. I'm working on it now. You'll have it by 3, I stammered, minimizing the Christmas shopping tab I'd been scrolling. His disappointment cut sharper than anger. The client meets tomorrow. This isn't like you. He was right. I had always been the reliable one, the one who stayed late, made others look good. At work, at home, everywhere. But something had shifted, like my body was rebelling against demands my mind tried to obey. That night, lying awake again, I pulled a notebook from my nightstand. Across the top, I scrawled, "Things I want." The pen hovered, unmoving. What did I want? Had anyone ever asked? Had I ever asked myself? The silence of that question pressed down harder than the noise of my family's laughter. The next morning, I arrived at the office an hour early. I finished the Henderson pitch, then plowed through next week's work. When my boss passed by, I said evenly, "Everything's done. I'm taking Friday off." Not a request, a statement. He blinked, caught off guard. Sure. You've got the time. Everything okay? Just taking care of myself. The words tasted foreign, but not wrong. By Thursday, my colleagues noticed something different. Jessica from accounting leaned on my cubicle wall. Holiday thing Saturday night. No family drama, just food, friends, and truly questionable karaoke. You in? I don't know, I hedged. There's so much to do before Christmas at Adrian's. She nudged my shoulder. One night for yourself won't kill you. Her casual kindness cracked something inside me. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. Karaoke, huh? That bad? Horrific, she grinned. Dave from IT does interpretive dance to Total Eclipse of the Heart. It'll scar you. I found myself nodding. Okay, I'm in. The possibility of joy, a night with people who wanted nothing but my presence, felt like gulping air after being underwater too long. Friday off, I wandered the city. No grocery lists, no errands, just me. Saturday, I tried recipes from an online blog, then went to Jessica's party. I sang badly, laughed harder, and felt the knot in my chest loosen. Sunday evening, reality intruded. My phone lit up with Mom's name. I considered letting it ring, but something in me had changed. I answered. Elowen, she said briskly, I'm finalizing Christmas plans. Did you get my text about coming early to help Adrian set up? 9 a.m., okay? He has a client breakfast. I stared at my whitening knuckles around the phone. The familiar script was unfolding. Adrian's needs elevated, mine dismissed. I'm busy too, I said quietly. Silence. What's that supposed to mean? Her voice sharpened. It means exactly what it says. I have deadlines, responsibilities, commitments. I'm not sitting around waiting to be useful. This is Christmas, Elowen. Family comes first. Does it? My voice trembled, but didn't falter. Because it feels like Adrian comes first, always. And I'm expected to serve him. She gasped. That's not fair. He works so hard. So do I. The words burst out louder than I intended. I work hard too, Mom, but no one has ever acknowledged that. Her silence stretched, brittle. I don't understand where this is coming from. We've always been a close family. The truth landed with a clarity that startled me. I didn't need their approval to be worthy. I never did. I'll think about Christmas, I said evenly. I'll let you know. I ended the call before she could respond, my pulse hammering but steady. The following week, Jessica stopped by my desk with coffee. Thought you might need this. No strings, just kindness. At lunch, my coworkers asked about holiday plans. When I hesitated, Dave from IT piped up. We're doing an orphan Christmas. Potluck. Everyone brings something they actually like making. You should come. The contrast staggered me. People I barely knew offered more care than my family ever had. Thanks, I said softly. I might. That night, I opened my laptop and began drafting an email. Dear Mom, Dad, and Adrian, I typed. I've given a lot of thought to Christmas this year. I've decided not to attend the gathering at Adrian's beach house. The words flowed, crisp and factual. I listed years of unbalanced expectations, the toll on my health and career, my need for boundaries. No accusations, just truth. An hour later, my phone rang. Aunt Rachel's name. Your mother called me, she said without preamble. She's upset. I'm sorry if she dragged you in, I murmured. Don't be. I wanted to call. Whatever you decide about Christmas, I support you. It's long overdue. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you. After we hung up, my phone buzzed again. Mom, calling. I let it ring, chest tightening. Then Dad's name flashed across the screen. He hadn't called me directly in 3 years. When I answered, his voice was uncharacteristically hesitant. Your mother says you may not come for Christmas. That's right. A pause. Perhaps we could talk. Papers on the table. I frowned. What papers? We'll discuss after the holidays. Something in his tone unsettled me. I hung up, staring at the dark window. My reflection looked different. Less invisible, more solid. Yet beneath the new strength, unease rippled. Because in that brief moment when Dad had said papers, I could have sworn his voice trembled. And I couldn't shake the image of that grease-stained recipe card tucked under Grandma's gravy boat, dated years earlier than the story Mom always told. At the time, it had seemed meaningless. Now, it felt like the first stitch of a seam beginning to unravel. The decision didn't happen all at once. It unfurled slowly, like a page I'd been afraid to turn. By the second week of December, I had rewritten my email 6 times, but the message never changed. I wasn't going to Adrian's for Christmas. When I finally pressed send, the silence that followed was deafening. No replies. Not from Mom, not from Dad, not from Adrian, just a void. 2 days later, Aunt Rachel called again. Your mother's in knots, she said, voice gentler than before. But I'm proud of you. Standing your ground takes more strength than they'll ever admit. Her loyalty steadied me. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, I just can't keep disappearing. You shouldn't have to, she said. Not anymore. But the silence from the rest of them grew louder, almost deliberate. I knew better than to think they were ignoring me. They were plotting their counterattack. It came in the form of an invitation to coffee. Mom chose the cafe near her favorite boutique, the one with peppermint mochas and antique lanterns strung in the window. I arrived early, heart pounding, rehearsing every word I planned to say. When she walked in, she carried not just her purse, but a worn leather photo album. She set it on the table between us like it was a weapon. Elowen, she began, clasping her hands theatrically around her mug, your brother needs you. This isn't about Christmas dinner, it's about family obligations. She flipped open the album to Adrian's kindergarten graduation. Her manicured finger traced his tiny smiling face. My own picture was beside his, but she skimmed right past it. He has important clients coming. He wants to impress them with a traditional family Christmas. He specifically asked for your cranberry relish recipe. I stared at her. Not for me, for my recipe. You know your father and I won't be around forever. Her voice wavered just enough to sound rehearsed. Are you really willing to throw away your family over petty jealousy? The words hit like a punch. Guilt rose in my throat, hot and familiar. But this time, I noticed something I never had before, her eyes flicking, checking if her performance was landing. I reached into my bag and pulled out my own folder. I brought something too. I slid 2 photos across the table. The first, last Easter, Adrian in the middle, Mom and Dad beaming. I was barely visible on the edge, carrying a tray. The second, Thanksgiving just weeks ago, Adrian raising a glass while I stood behind, refilling water glasses. 6 holidays in a row, I said steadily, where I cooked every dish. 32 gatherings where I arrived early to set up and stayed late to clean. 4 birthdays of mine rescheduled because of Adrian's plans. Her smile faltered. We appreciate everything you do. You appreciate everything I provide, I cut in. There's a difference. I tapped the list of dates I'd written. When was the last time anyone photographed me enjoying a meal, or offered to help in the kitchen, or celebrated my promotion the way you toasted Adrian's golf game? She shifted uncomfortably, fingers tightening around the album. I'm not throwing away family, I said softly. I'm refusing to be the servant. For the first time in my adult life, she had no ready response. Around us, the cafe hummed with holiday chatter. The twinkling lights reflected off her strained face. Finally, she sighed. We've taken you for granted. The admission stunned me. My carefully rehearsed speech dissolved, replaced by unexpected tears. What would it take to fix things, she asked. The question hovered, tempting. I could have offered terms, listed boundaries. Instead, I said, I'll think about it, and left before she could regain the upper hand. That night, Jessica showed up at my condo with takeout and her laptop. Operation Freedom Christmas, she announced, plopping pad thai on the table. We're booking Key West. I laughed, shaking my head. You're ridiculous. Ridiculous and right. She pulled up photos of turquoise water and palm trees. Your family doesn't get to own the word tradition. You get to make your own. Her words sank deeper than I expected. I booked the hotel before I could talk myself out of it. The confirmation email arrived the same minute my phone buzzed with a text from Dad. We need to talk. The timing felt eerie, almost choreographed. When I opened the email, another image flashed in my mind. The grease-stained cranberry recipe card I'd found under Grandma's gravy boat. The date scrawled across the top didn't match Mom's story of when Grandma created it. At the time, I'd dismissed it, but now? Now I wondered if that card was more than a recipe. Maybe it was a breadcrumb. The thought wouldn't let me go. 3 days later, I got proof that something else was buried. I stopped by Aunt Rachel's house to drop off cookies. She waved me inside, then hesitated. Your mother asked me to return this to her, she said, holding up an envelope she'd tucked between pages of the family album. The edge of it was frayed, the word trust faintly visible in pencil. She told me to slide it back before you noticed, Rachel admitted, lowering her voice. But Elowen, I couldn't. My pulse spiked. What is it? I don't know. She wouldn't let me open it. I stared at the envelope in her hand. It wasn't mine, not yet. I couldn't steal it. But just knowing it existed, and that Mom had hidden it, set every nerve buzzing. Whatever happens, Rachel whispered, don't let them gaslight you into silence. There's more here than holiday menus and photo albums. That night I lay awake again, the words echoing. There's more here. I couldn't unsee the envelope, couldn't unremember the recipe card, couldn't unhear Dad's trembling voice about papers. And for the first time, the question wasn't, should I go to Christmas? It was, what are they hiding from me? Christmas morning smelled of sunscreen instead of cinnamon. The Key West sun pressed down on my shoulders as I stretched out on a towel beside Jessica. A group of friends we'd met the night before were setting up a beach volleyball net, their laughter bright and unrestrained. For once, I wasn't darting between a kitchen and a dining room. I wasn't invisible. I was just here. Jessica snapped a photo, pulling me into the frame. Proof you exist outside your family's shadow, she teased. For the first time in years, I smiled without hesitation. Later, while sipping iced mojitos, my phone buzzed. A string of texts from Aunt Rachel. Adrian nearly burned the turkey. Your dad insists on a home-cooked meal, refuses catering. Your mom's frantic, keeps saying, if only Elowen were here. I laughed out loud, startling Jessica. Apparently my absence is a national crisis. Good, she said firmly. Let them choke on it. But Rachel's final text made my smile fade. By the way, the accountant mentioned something about Grandma's trust. Thought you should know. I called her immediately. Rachel's voice was low, careful. When your grandmother passed, she set up a small starter trust. Equal for both of you. Not a fortune, but something to help. The thing is, Adrian's payout came early. Years early. Then everyone stopped mentioning it. My stomach dropped. Mom always said Grandma gave him a loan. Nothing formal. Funny how loans vanish when the paperwork disappears. Rachel hesitated. I saw the envelope, Elowen, the one your mother stuffed back in the album. It wasn't a loan document. It was a distribution slip from the trust. The beach blurred before me. My grandmother, the only person who'd ever noticed me in the kitchen, had left me something, and it had been buried. Jessica touched my arm. You okay? I nodded stiffly, but my voice trembled. They gave Adrian my share. Rachel exhaled on the line. Or at least delayed yours. Either way, they lied. I ended the call, numb, and stared out at the turquoise water. That night, under strings of beachside lights, Jessica coaxed me into karaoke. My off-key voice tumbled into the humid air, mixing with laughter, clapping, joy. For the first time, Christmas felt like freedom. But the secret of the trust lodged itself inside me like a splinter. When we returned to the hotel, I scrolled through old group texts. Mom's instructions, Dad's toasts, Adrian's smug updates. None of them mentioned money. None of them admitted the truth. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dad. We should meet after the holidays, with papers on the table. That phrase again. Papers. I typed back one word. Fine. The weeks that followed carried me into the new year, but the splinter only dug deeper. At work, I threw myself into projects. I laughed with Jessica, accepted coffee from Dave, even started planning a spring getaway. Yet at night, my mind replayed every clue. The recipe card under the gravy boat, the envelope in Mom's album, the tremor in Dad's voice. I couldn't shake the suspicion that my family's favoritism wasn't just emotional, it was financial. In late January, Aunt Rachel invited me over again. Her dining table was cluttered with half-wrapped gifts she hadn't managed to send on time. She poured us wine, then leaned across the table. Elowen, I shouldn't tell you this, but the lawyer who handled your grandmother's estate called me last week. He asked if you'd ever received your disbursement. My pulse quickened. What did you say? I told him no. He sounded surprised. The room tilted slightly, like the ground itself was shifting. Rachel, I whispered, what if they took it? What if Mom and Dad decided Adrian needed it more and just erased me from the paperwork? She shook her head. I don't know. But I do know this. Your grandmother meant for you to have something, and your parents kept that from you. Her certainty both steadied and terrified me. In February, Dad finally called again. Elowen, he said, voice hesitant. I think it's time we sit down. No more dancing around. When? I asked flatly. March. At the house. Your mother and I. We'll explain everything. The way he said everything made my skin prickle. I hung up and stared at the phone. Jessica raised an eyebrow from the couch. They're hiding something, I said, and it's not just pie recipes. Then you go, she said, but this time you don't go alone. March arrived gray and damp. I drove to the beach house with Rachel beside me, her presence a silent anchor. The moment we walked in, I smelled lemon polish and tension. Mom sat rigidly at the dining table, the same table where I'd spilled gravy months earlier. Dad had a folder in front of him. Adrian lounged on the sofa, phone in hand, expression carefully blank. Dad cleared his throat. Your grandmother left you both a trust, equal shares, but when Adrian hit difficulties, we made a decision to release his portion early. My breath caught. Difficulties? He bought a Tesla and a beach house. Appearances matter, Mom snapped. Your brother needed stability. He was representing this family. And I wasn't? My voice shook. Adrian finally looked up. For once, he didn't look smug. He looked cornered. It wasn't my idea, he muttered. Rachel leaned forward, sharp. And Elowen's share? Dad's eyes flickered. Delayed. For the right time. Rage surged. The right time or never? The silence that followed was answer enough. That night, back at Rachel's, I sat staring at the fire in her hearth. The heat should have been comforting, but all I felt was raw. They had stolen from me. Not just love, not just recognition, money, security, the very thing Grandma had wanted me to have. Jessica called, her voice urgent. You okay? I whispered the truth into the phone. I don't know what scares me more, that they stole it, or that they never even thought I'd notice. A year later, Thanksgiving didn't look anything like the stiff, picture-perfect tables of my childhood. The aroma of rosemary and garlic filled my Orlando condo as I slid the turkey back into the oven. 40 minutes remained, plenty of time to sit with my guests instead of hiding in the kitchen. Need a hand? Jessica called from the doorway. I smiled. Actually, I'm good. Theo's mashing potatoes. Rachel brought dessert. Everything's under control. Those words felt revolutionary. Under control, but not on my shoulders alone. When I entered the living room, Aunt Rachel patted the sofa beside her. This beats Adrian's stuffy dining room, she whispered, squeezing my hand. My table was mismatched. Plates from thrift stores, driftwood, and shells from Key West as the centerpiece. Theo argued with Rachel's daughter Emily about how much butter belonged in mashed potatoes. Jessica topped off everyone's wine, her laughter warm and contagious. For once, I wasn't running, serving, disappearing. I was present. Wine? I asked Rachel, pouring myself a glass before she could answer. She chuckled. Your father called me yesterday, asked if you were hosting Thanksgiving. The old knot in my stomach didn't rise. Instead, I asked evenly, how are they doing? Managing. Your mother overcooks everything. Adrian burned the stuffing last year. We both laughed. It wasn't bitter, just honest. When we gathered around the table, I didn't wait for anyone else to start. I sat, picked up my fork, and tasted every dish. The flavors burst on my tongue, not just food, but freedom. Rachel raised her glass. To traditions that nourish instead of drain. Jessica added, to chosen family. The words settled deep, like roots. 2 weeks later, my phone lit up with Dad's name. For once, my hand didn't tremble. Elowen, he said slowly, your mother and I were wondering if we could visit for Christmas. I looked at the photo on my wall. Last Thanksgiving's table, 5 smiling faces, mine centered and glowing. I'd like that, I said carefully, but things will be different. We'll cook together, not just me. And on Christmas Eve, I'm hosting a friends gathering. That won't change. The silence stretched. Then, softly, I think we can manage that. After we hung up, I realized how strange it felt to negotiate with my father like an equal. Strange and necessary. Christmas approached with a flicker of hope and a heavy dose of caution. In early December, Aunt Rachel stopped by with a box. I found these cleaning out Grandma's attic, she said, sliding it across my counter. They were never given to your mother. Inside lay a stack of recipe cards, worn soft at the edges. My throat tightened as I recognized Grandma's looping handwriting. Lemon bars, chicken pot pie, cranberry relish. At the bottom of the stack, a sealed envelope, yellowed with age, bore my name. Elowen, Rachel whispered. She left this for you. My hands trembled as I touched the flap but didn't open it. Not yet. The weight of it was almost too much. Rachel gave me a knowing look. When you're ready. The day my parents arrived, I braced myself. The condo smelled of cinnamon and sage. Jessica had strung lights across the balcony. Theo was chopping herbs, humming off key. My parents stood at the door, looking out of place in their stiff coats and practiced smiles. Come in, I said, voice steady. Inside, I handed them aprons. We're cooking together. Mom blinked. Oh, well, No exceptions, I said lightly, though my tone left no room. To my surprise, Dad slipped on his apron without protest. Mom hesitated, then tied hers with fumbling fingers. Watching them chop vegetables under Theo's guidance was surreal. Later, while dough rose and sauce simmered, Mom drifted toward the window. It's different here, she murmured. Yes, I said, it is. That evening, as candles flickered on the table, Rachel handed me the envelope. Open it, she urged gently. My fingers shook as I tore the flap. Inside was a letter, ink faded but legible. My dearest Elowen, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I worry you've given too much and received too little. You are steady, faithful, the one who holds things together. But my wish is for you to stop serving and be served. Take what I've set aside. It belongs to you as much as it does to Adrian. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Tears blurred the words. At the bottom, a note in smaller script. Look beneath the silver gravy boat. I tucked one last thing there for you. I froze. The gravy boat. The same one I'd carried to the table last Thanksgiving. The one that had been Grandma's. Rachel squeezed my arm. Do you still have it? Yes, I whispered. It's in my cupboard. The room fell quiet as I fetched it, setting the heavy piece on the table. Slowly, I unscrewed the felt bottom. Inside was a folded strip of paper. My heart hammered as I read aloud. Never forget, you are worthy of more than scraps. When they overlook you, remember, I saw you. The words hit harder than any confrontation, harder than the trust, harder than the hidden documents. My grandmother had seen me. Mom's face crumpled. Dad looked down at his hands. Adrian wasn't there, but in that moment, the air was thick with the truth of every silence, every theft, every unspoken wound. I folded the note carefully and placed it back in the boat. My voice shook, but it carried. This is who I come from, not invisibility, not servitude, her. The candles flickered, casting long shadows across their stunned faces. And for the first time, I felt not like a servant, not like an afterthought, but like the keeper of something sacred. The letter from Grandma cracked something open that could never be shut again. After my parents left that night, the condo buzzed with a strange stillness. Jessica gathered plates. Theo stacked glasses, but I barely moved. My fingers still traced the ink of that note. I saw you. It felt less like comfort and more like a command. Over the next week, I kept turning Grandma's words over in my mind. Take what I've set aside. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But they had told me otherwise, for years. By January, the truth pressed against my ribs like a caged animal. I called Dad. We need to finish this, I said. He sighed heavily. I know. We met in early February at the beach house, the same place where my rebellion had begun. I insisted Aunt Rachel be present. Jessica offered to come too, but I told her this part needed family eyes. The dining table gleamed with polish, the china cabinet glimmering in the corner, but I noticed the empty space where Grandma's gravy boat had once been displayed. Now it lived in my kitchen, under my guard. Dad sat at the head of the table, a folder in front of him. Mom perched stiffly at his side, lips pressed thin. Adrian arrived late, smelling of cologne and entitlement, his phone buzzing nonstop. I sat across from them, Rachel at my shoulder like a quiet sentinel. Dad opened the folder. Your grandmother's trust was modest but meaningful. Equal shares for you and Adrian. But when he faced financial strain, your mother and I decided to steal my half, I cut in. Mom flinched. We didn't steal. We advanced his portion. We thought we'd make it up to you later. Later? My laugh was brittle. You buried it, hid the envelope in a photo album, told Rachel to cover it up. Rachel's glare seared across the table. Don't deny it. I saw you. Adrian shifted, finally looking up. I didn't ask for it to be secret. They offered. I needed the down payment. I leaned forward. And you took it, knowing it wasn't just yours. His jaw tightened. I thought they'd give you yours later. When? After you bought another house? Another boat? My voice shook. He looked away, guilty but not repentant. Dad cleared his throat. We didn't mean harm. We wanted to stabilize the family image. Adrian was visible, successful, and I was invisible, I snapped. Useful only when cooking or cleaning. Convenient to erase when money was at stake. The words hung heavy. For the first time, Mom's eyes glistened, not with manipulation, but something closer to shame. Elowen, she said quietly, I should have told you, but I was afraid. Afraid you'd resent Adrian. I already did, I whispered. Not because of him, because of you. Silence. Only the hum of the refrigerator filled the space. Rachel broke it. So what now? Will you repay her? Or keep pretending it never happened? Dad shifted uncomfortably. The funds are tied up. Investments. It won't be immediate. My heart sank, but Rachel's steady hand on mine kept me grounded. Then it will be documented, I said firmly. A repayment schedule, legally binding. Adrian scoffed. Seriously? You're treating family like a business contract? Yes, I said, because family already treated me like a servant. A contract is the only language you respect. He opened his mouth, then closed it. For once, no smooth retort came. Later that evening, after the negotiations ended with reluctant agreements, I stood alone in the kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd once spilled gravy and swallowed my anger. Mom appeared in the doorway. Elowen. I didn't turn. What? Her voice trembled. I'm sorry. The words hung awkwardly, unfamiliar on her tongue. For what? I asked, still facing the counter. For making you feel less, for not seeing you. Slowly I turned. Her eyes were wet, her hands clasped like she was praying. You didn't just fail to see me, I said. You chose not to, over and over. She nodded. tears slipping. I know. I don't expect forgiveness overnight. Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I believed her regret was real. Adrian lingered outside, pretending to scroll his phone. When I walked past him, he muttered, "For what it's worth, I didn't want Grandma's cabinet. That was Aunt Sarah's idea." I paused, surprised. Then why didn't you say no? His lips pressed thin, because it was easier to take what was offered than fight. Our eyes met. His weren't smug now. They were tired. And for a moment, I saw not the golden boy, but a man trapped by the role he'd been forced to play. "You've always been the star," I said softly. "Maybe you don't know who you are without the spotlight." He flinched, but didn't deny it. That night, back at my condo, I set the gravy boat on the counter. I ran my fingers over the folded note hidden inside its base. "I saw you." For years, I had begged to be noticed by people who refused, but Grandma had seen me all along. I realized then that justice wasn't just about money or apologies. It was about claiming my place, on my own terms, whether they recognized it or not. Still, the question lingered. Could we rebuild something real on this cracked foundation, or was the damage too deep? Jessica found me staring at the boat. "Well?" she asked softly. "Well," I said, exhaling. "The truth is out, but now comes the harder part." "Which is?" "Deciding if I want them back in my life at all." The weight of that choice settled heavy, but it was mine to make. And for the first time, that felt like enough. We didn't meet in a lawyer's office. We met at my dining table. I insisted on it. No more polished beach house facades, no marble counters, to remind me of where my silence had been born. My condo, my mismatched plates, my rules. Aunt Rachel sat beside me, steady as always, while Jessica hovered nearby to take notes. My parents came first, stiff and brittle. Adrian arrived late, his confidence a size too small, his eyes darting away from mine. On the table between us lay the folder Dad had brought, a slim stack of bank documents, distribution slips, numbers that should have been mine years ago. I felt my pulse in my fingertips. "Let's begin," I said. My voice surprised me. Calm, clipped, almost professional. Rachel folded her hands. "We're here to establish restitution. Clear terms, no vague promises." Dad cleared his throat. "The funds are invested. Liquidating them all at once would be difficult." "Then partial repayment," I said. "Regular installments, documented by an attorney, interest included, starting immediately." Adrian shifted. "This is insane. Families don't write contracts with each other." I looked straight at him. "Families also don't steal inheritances, yet here we are." His jaw worked, but no words came. Rachel slid a draft agreement across the table. She had already contacted a lawyer friend. Dad skimmed it, face tight, but he signed. Mom hesitated, tears brimming, but when I didn't flinch, she pressed pen to paper. The line was crossed, binding, real. Next came the cabinet. Aunt Sarah had promised it to Adrian, but the moment my name was spoken, silence filled the room. "That cabinet was always meant for Elowen," Rachel said firmly. "She admired it since she was a girl." Adrian raised his hands. "Fine. Take it. I don't even want the damn thing." The words lacked venom. They sounded like defeat. For once, he wasn't the favored child, the untouchable. He was just tired. I blinked at him, surprised. "Thank you." It was the first unforced gift he'd ever given me. But the heart of the reckoning wasn't furniture or money. It was the letter. I placed Grandma's note in the center of the table, the one I had read aloud on Christmas Eve. Mom's face paled, Dad's jaw tightened. "She saw me," I said softly. "She left me this so I would never forget it. You tried to erase that, but you failed." Mom's tears spilled. I was wrong. The admission should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like grief. Grief for all the years lost, the birthdays rescheduled, the holidays stolen. "What now?" Dad asked, his voice rough. "Now," I said, "we acknowledge, out loud, what I gave, what you took, and we start again, if we can, on equal ground." Rachel's gaze pressed against them like a weight. "Say it," she urged. Dad swallowed hard. "We took what wasn't ours to take. We diminished you, and we're sorry." Mom echoed him, broken. For the first time, their words sounded less like performance and more like surrender. After they left, Rachel hugged me fiercely. "You did it. You changed the script." But when the door closed, I felt hollow. Justice was not triumph, it was exhaustion. That night, unable to sleep, I opened the gravy boat again. The folded strip of paper rested inside. My grandmother's second message, written in her slanted hand. Never forget, you are worthy of more than scraps. I traced the letters, wondering how she had known. Had she seen the favoritism? The way my parents clung to Adrian's shine? Had she left this note because she feared exactly what had happened? The thought chilled me. Weeks later, the cabinet arrived at my condo, carried awkwardly by delivery men. Inside, I found a packet of recipe cards tucked in the bottom drawer. Among them, another envelope. Smaller, fragile. It was addressed to me. With shaking hands, I opened it. Elowen, it read, if the cabinet is yours, then you must know the truth by now. Love can be lopsided, and money even more so. But remember, justice is not always about balance. It is about refusing to disappear. Live boldly. Sit at the table, not behind it. And when they try to forget you, remind them who you are. The words lit something inside me. Not anger, not bitterness. Fire. I held the envelope against my chest, tears streaming. My grandmother had written a commission, not just a comfort. The next family gathering wasn't at Adrian's glossy house or my parents' stiff dining room. It was here, my table. Adrian came, quieter than before, his wife absent, his laugh subdued. My parents arrived early, tentative, carrying store-bought rolls like a peace offering. Rachel and Jessica bustled in with wine and laughter. For once, no one sat at the head. We ate family style, passing dishes, clinking glasses. My mother looked awkward, but she served herself without asking me to fetch anything. My father cleared plates. Adrian asked questions instead of monologuing. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't healed, but it was different. At one point, I caught Adrian watching me pour wine. His gaze was unreadable. Then he gave a small nod. Not approval, not pride. Something quieter. Recognition. When everyone left, I sat alone at the table, the candle stubs still smoking. I placed Grandma's letter beside my plate, the cabinet looming against the wall like a witness. I thought about the years wasted, the money siphoned, the trust betrayed, but I also thought about the note inside the gravy boat, the envelope in the cabinet, the words she'd left me. Live boldly. For so long I had lived in shadows, carrying trays, refilling glasses, hoping to be noticed. Now I had noticed myself. And whether reconciliation lasted or fractured again, I knew one thing with certainty. I would never be invisible again.